extremely dangerous. For those who will stop at nothing to go faster, it's called Mega Speed. On this episode, old friends drive their 5-ton, 900-horsepower trucks rig to rig with enough contact for a demolition derby.
Can't afford to make mistakes like that.
Deegan and Tanner might be buddies in the paddock, but enemies on the track. Global Rallycross has been called racing for people with attention deficit disorder.
It's a fact of life of Rallycross is that the guys in the back row have nothing to lose.
You want a drag race? Kid Quick here had better drop the attitude
That's the hardest one right there.
and start paying attention.
It's like you let your guys down, well, I just let them down.
Piloting the world's fastest jet bike can be a lonely job, and so can flying off a cliff. This is big rig racing. These are real trucks, upwards of 5 tons, engines goosed up to 900 horsepower. When one of these babies takes a corner too fast or gets whacked by another competitor, that's gonna leave a mark. This is Jim Bennett, a veteran of truck racing. He doesn't have a lot of money to throw around, but he's a skilled and devious driver. This is Simon Reed, Jim's main rival. This is his first year racing, and he's burning up the track. Passionate weekend warriors who indulge in their truck racing addiction whenever they can. Jim Bennett knows his trucks. His gravel pit near Cruxton, England is filled with the massive tools of the trade.
Yeah, I've been in trucks all my life, really. I'll say, I'm thinking about trucks all the time, basically.
Jim's getting ready to leave home for another weekend of truck bashing.
Hello, dear.
Hi, did you have a nice time?
Just in time to say goodbye and maybe show off why he's in 3rd place overall this year.
You're often doing.
Never really worried about podium places, but we're in the points at the moment on 3rd position in the British Championship and hope to at least maintain it, if not improve it, this weekend.
I've been once, and I didn't enjoy it, so I haven't been since. But that's not my cup of tea.
Which means it's another weekend all alone behind the wheel of the big rig. Sweet. Day 1, and Jim Bennett and his crew were busy getting the rig ready for the first race.
Apparently, yesterday it was very slippery, so we adjusted the tyre pressures accordingly.
In wet conditions, tire pressure is critical. Too high, and the truck will lose traction and slide off the track. This is the last race weekend of the season. All the racers have been racking up points, and this is their last chance to improve their standings. Jim's 3rd place position has been threatened by Simon Reed all year long. And as Simon and his team are getting ready for the first race, they're busy and determined. This is Simon's first full season racing, which explains his state of mind.
Nervous, very nervous. Jim has got a lot of experience on this track, so I've just got to try and make my pace up, you know, best I can, work out what he's doing and what I can do better.
Simon's brother Craig is in charge of maintenance on the truck.
I break him and he fixes them.
Craig and Simon built this racer from a bit of a beater.
So we sort of put the funds together between me and my brother and my dad and bought this truck.
The engine's been slid back for weight distribution, just to make it handle a lot better. You basically sit on the floor, windscreens, as just your normal glass. You got 1,000 horsepower. A race truck will do 0 to 100 faster than a Porsche 911.
The first race of the weekend. The track is greasy from the rain and spilled diesel fuel. In between the heats, Simon considers his strategy.
There's a lot of trucks out on the course. If it's a case of either bloody taking a big risk or laying off and trying to overtake him in a safer place on the track, hey, the game is to beat Jim, obviously.
And Jim, the wily old veteran, is having the same problems with the slippery track.
Yeah, I think you control your slide. Yeah, you can get round the corners, but once you lose it, you've got 5.5 plus tons in angel gear, basically. You'll go where the gods take you.
And as if the rain and spilled fuel wasn't enough, the bumping and grinding starts in earnest. From behind, from the side.
They say we're new contact sport, but we do have the odd glove kiss. The name of the game. I try not to hit anyone, and if people hit me, I can't do anything about it.
The truck carnage of the first race is so bad, including this one. The rest of the competitors are forced to slow down as they pass the accident. Luckily, the driver is shaken, but okay. The officials have called off all the rest of the day's races. The competitors will have to try to make up the missing points tomorrow. In the meantime, it's a mad rush to try to repair the damage from today's race. Jim's busy with duct tape, but what he doesn't realize is underneath his rig is a ticking time bomb. And while Jim gets down and dirty, we find out what you need to know to get your drag racing license. There's no purer example of the need for speed than drag racing. At about 300 miles an hour, the event is over in seconds. Going absolutely nowhere. You need to train for drag racing. This is TJ Casper. He's been racing since he was 10 years old. Now he's trying to get his top fuel racing license. A confident guy with a cocky nickname.
They won't even call me by my real name, just call me Kid Quick. K-I-D-K-W-I-K.
His father calls him TJ. Dad's also a drag racer and knows the risks.
I'm not gonna lie, he could crash, you know, he could crash. He could get hurt, he could get burned, he could get killed, you know? It's all very serious.
It's almost impossible, if you're conscious, to get in one of these cars and not be a little nervous.
This is Frank Hawley. For 30 years, he's been guiding talented young drivers in the deadly challenges of drag racing. TJ will get exactly 3 runs in the dragster, each no longer than 5 seconds. He'll have to learn how to manipulate a bewildering set of controls, keep the car in a straight line, and get as close to 240 miles an hour as possible.
Go ahead and give him a hand to get his stuff on. We'll get you in there. All right. He's always driven stuff where the engine's in front of him. The visibility isn't quite as good. This car is very long, very light, very narrow.
TJ has a couple of runs to get this right. He has to be paying close attention.
Feel okay? Cool.
The first one. Just enough to see if TJ can make the shift from first gear to second.
That is the part where I disappear and go throw up. Once he does the burnout, dumps the clutch, I'm fine for the rest of the day. It's just the first one. It's always the first one.
And the first one is disappointing. A short little hop that proves just how hard it is to keep the car in a straight line. Back at the pits, TJ is all about the swagger.
That was all good, man. That's the hardest one right there. We're good to go.
Frank's got no patience with the attitude.
That was it. That was the icebreaker. That's like asking a girl out on a date right there.
I'm gonna meet you down there as soon as these guys will let you go, because we gotta look at all this.
I'll start getting on it.
Just saying that I see the car going a little left, and anything I see on here is a little left.
It's obvious right away that the car pulled hard to the left. and TJ badly overcorrected. The second run goes better. At least TJ gets up enough speed to deploy the braking chutes.
That was an improvement all around.
This is supposed to be the last run, the run that gives TJ his racing certificate. The car just dies. Back to the pits, where TJ is immediately defensive.
I didn't push the button in all the way. You must have didn't hit that cutoff.
We have an RPM limiter designed on this that once it gets to an over-rev situation, it shuts the engine off.
So the car protects itself from careless beginners. TJ's swagger has been left on the track.
You don't want to do that again.
It's like you let your guys down. Well, I just let them down, and I don't like doing that. He knows what he did, and I'm kind of glad he made a mistake, because without mistake, there's no growth.
That was supposed to be the qualifying run, and to squeeze an unscheduled run in will cost another $1,000. But Frank can't hand out a license to the driver who forgets to shift. So, Dad's on the phone to his wife, explaining why they have to postpone their vacation.
It's $3,000, $1,000 a hit. I'd like to make another pass.
And so, it's all riding on this, a full quarter mile. And the onboard computer will be monitoring everything from throttle and clutch to RPM and manifold pressure. The car reaches 235 miles an hour. With the exception of a slight pull to the right, the car and driver performed flawlessly.
What are you talking about now?
I said, I wasn't missing them buttons this time.
You get it shifted, did you?
Yeah, oh yeah, it shifted, all right.
Good job, man. We're gonna get you a top alcohol dragster license.
Cool, man.
Now you got 2
What a
licenses.
great way to end the day. Another drag racer is born, or maybe forged, and pounded into shape in drag racing school. Still ahead on Mega Speed, Jim has his hands full, but there's a real problem with his truck's transmission.
It should be okay, hopefully.
And up next, the rally rockets of the GRC circuit.
It's every man for himself when that green flag drops.
In a vacant lot beside the Las Vegas Strip. These are the cars of the Global Rallycross circuit. Specially modified compact cars that go like spit. Tanner Felst is one of the stars of Global Rallycross.
It's like motorsport for somebody with ADD, where it's jumping, sliding, crashing, cars that go 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds, 600 horsepower, compact cars, but very fast.
The race course has tight turns, combined with a big jump. Designed to make sure the cars get airborne. Then they jam up to 10 cars in a single race to ensure there is maximum carnage.
The guys in the back row have nothing to lose. It's the only FIA motorsport in the world where there's no real penalty for contact.
This is Tomas Heikkinen, nicknamed Topi. He's one of the best drivers on the circuit and could easily win this year's championship. But even he can make a mistake. In 2012, he went into a jump a mere mile an hour less than he was supposed to.
I broke my hip and my ankle, and actually my ankle was on 15 pieces.
Within months, Topi was back in the race, and coming into the final week of the season, he he's in first place overall. Tanner Faust, always a tough competitor. No, there's still a chance to make the podium if he can push things just a bit. But it's this guy, Brian Deegan, who's the spoiler.
It's every man for himself when that green flag drops. I try to be clean. I try to show respect to other guys because that's what I want back. And when a guy starts pounding me or takes me out, well, then I never forget that.
And so to the final race of the season. Tanner, calm, cool, and ready to win this race, and maybe move up and take the whole series. Topi, desperate to prove he's more than just the guy who ran into the wall. If he doesn't get taken out and runs clean, he could win the championship. And Brian Deegan hopes strategy will get him through.
It's really my first goal is just to get through the first turn, because it's always carnage.
And wouldn't you know it, right in the first turn. Brian Deegan is taken out. He madly tries to get his stalled car going again. The other racers pass him once, twice. His race in this year's chance at the championship is over. And he knows it. Tanner Faust, in the lead all race, is suddenly passed with just a couple of laps to go, while Topi fights his way up from the back of the pack. After a pitched battle, the race ends, with Tanner in second place and Topi in third. In spite of this, Topi takes the championship trophy. He may have come in third in this race, but his overall point score crowns him champion. For Tanner, the result is still good enough to win second place overall for the whole season.
Very happy though with second place. Second place in the championship. Pretty stoked.
Yeah, the season was great for us. Our car has worked so well. We're going to home and let's check on next week what we get planning to do for the next year.
For guys like Topi and Tanner, it's all about controlling the car. But what happens when you lose all control?
A broken back in 5 places, bust upper arm in 4 places, a completely separated knee joint.
And coming up on Mega Speed, hopping on a bomb with wheels. Connor Cummins has entered motorcycle racing history books. Not for winning, but for his brush with eternity. Connor was racing in the world-famous TT race on the Isle of Man.
I was fighting for the lead, I was closing in. The pace was fierce, and that's all I can remember. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in hospital.
And no one, including Connor, seemed to know exactly what happened.
Difficult to say. It was quite windy that day. Perhaps he was caught by a crosswind.
He then separated from the bike and started tumbling down the hillside. There's a stone wall there.
And finally ended up in the field here somewhere. Very lucky lad that he didn't square on hit that.
So I've gone from 130, 140 miles an hour to going down over the side and it being over in 3 to 4 seconds. That's a lot for your body to take in. Well, I had to recover from a broken back in 5 places, bust upper arm in 4 places, a dislocated, completely separated knee joint. The only thing that's holding me together in my knee was my skin. So I've had to have a full rebuild, 13-hour operation on my back and my leg, another 4 hours on my arm. Mental damage, I suppose, as well, although I've never been right in the head, I don't think.
Connor was back racing at the TT the very next year.
You know there's a big risk involved, and you know that you're not superhuman, bulletproof, all that rubbish. Yeah, something's gonna get you in the end. You know, you've got to get up every day and just get on with your life.
Connor Cummins knows that at a certain point, surviving speed is out of his control. Control, on the other hand, is quite literally Eric Taboul's life. His bike looks supersized. A motorbike on steroids. A little too long, and a very uncomfortable seating position. This is unofficially the world's fastest rocket bike. And this is the guy who just didn't have time to fill out the paperwork that would have made it official. Eric Taboul.
My world record at this moment is incredible 5.19 on the quarter mile and 281 miles, that's 451 kilometers on two wheels.
Eric's time on the quarter mile would be considered the fastest in the world if he just submitted the proof to Guinness. But he's having too much fun.
So now I'm the fastest man on the world. I'm happy for this, but that's only because this is a fun.
Fun? The kind of fun you can only get by strapping a 350-kilogram bomb to your crotch.
This one, it's the fuel tank. That's where the peroxide is stocked. And under the bike, you see the green carbon bottle. That's air.
The technology comes directly from NASA. The lunar module that was used on the moon missions steered with a peroxide rocket engine using very short blasts. Eric Taboul's bike exhausts itself in one explosive 5-second burst.
When your body have this G-force, you know you go quick, and you are happy.
Eric has come here to Santa Pod in the UK because of the length of its track. Going 450 kilometers an hour is one thing, but eventually you have to stop.
So braking is very important, of course, that's my life. If the brakes don't work, so the bike don't stop. And when you run under 281 miles, so you need a very strong brakes and make sure he works.
But while the track is fine, the changeable British weather is a problem. The best conditions for the rocket bike would be hot, about 30 degrees Celsius, and dry. Keep dreaming.
Today the weather condition is not fine for the rocket because the fuel it's a less reaction when it's cold.
The rain ends and the track fires up its pavement dryer. It's still cool, but Eric is game. It's time to rocket and roll. Eric fires off a few short bursts to get the engine warmed up. The bike takes off like a scared cat. Up to 8 Gs of force pushing on Eric. And even after the rocket motor shuts off, the bike is still hurtling down the track. The rocket motor has done its job and Eric is ready for an even longer run. Somewhere warmer maybe? Like maybe the Bonneville Salt Flats?
So next step now is in America with the better condition with the sun. Should be working better to run very fast.
Still ahead, the big rigs are back on the track as they bang and prang into each other.
It's very slippery. 1 meter out of line when you crash.
And coming up, if motorcycle racing is 2 wheels too few and bicycle racing is a tad too slow, slap them both together and you have motor pace racing. In the world of big rig racing, there are guys like Jim, not much money, but a lot of heart. And Simon, enthusiastic newcomer. Weekend warriors who do it for the love. Then there are the guys who seem to win every race.
Unfortunately, we were behind in the championship at the moment. We're in second place and we've been making ground up during the course of the year.
If there is truck racing royalty, this is it. David Jenkins. David's father used to race trucks when Dave was just a kid. There's a lot of pride in the Jenkins team. And skill. But even the skillful can pooch a turn. On the first day's race, David drives right off the track by mistake.
Terrible. Yeah, it was frantic, wasn't it, out there? And I made a mistake on the first lap and just ran through the gravel at the end of lap 1. And then I needed the full race distance to catch up. Needed to capitalise on that situation then, and we didn't.
Jenkins doesn't make many mistakes. He seems to have an unbreakable connection with his truck.
The trucks aren't that much different than a racing car. They respond in the same way, but you have to be aware of the weight and the fact that there's so much momentum everywhere.
The big rigs are poised for the last competition of the season. All of the competitors have been racking up points with each race, and it's all come down to this. Jenkins has been chasing first place all year, and he really needs a win today. And guys like Simon and Jim keep getting in his way.
So if you get behind those trucks, it can make it more slippery for us.
Maybe so. But in the first race of the day, Jenkins slips off the track again. And then begins to drive against the traffic. Simon manages an amazing feat, narrowly missing Jenkins, a feat that impresses Jenkins' dad.
That first hand,
Was that lucky or was that not lucky? Oh, absolutely brilliant.
So going into the last race, David Jenkins now needs the leader, the guy in the man truck, to make a mistake so he can move up in the points and maybe take the whole season. Simon Reed is golden, slipping effortlessly past all other competitors. While poor Jim is battling a smoking, belching transmission that's collapsing one gear at a time. And the race itself? Well, it's turning into a demolition derby. Can our guys survive? Take a motorcycle race. Then take a bicycle race. Then mash the two together, a little bit like potatoes and marbles, and you have motor pace racing. No question, it looks a little weird. The cyclist appears dangerously cozy to the motorcycle's back end. Around and around an outdoor velodrome at speeds approaching 100 kilometers an hour. Motor pace racing looks like the motorcycle is towing the bicycle around the track, but that's not the case. The motorcycle is called the pacer, and the cyclist is called the stayer because they're supposed to stay right next to the rollers mounted on the back of the motorbike. This is cyclist Mario with his pacer helmet. They've won the Motor Pace Racing Championship every year until last year. This is Peter on the motorcycle and Florian the stayer. They're the pair that narrowly defeated champions Mario and Helmet last year. They hope today is a repeat of last year's surprise victory.
Well, Florian and Peter, they will be our strongest competition on the track. We rode once against each other. Florian won the race, and today we will take revenge.
The motorbike has been pretty radically altered.
But the most important thing is the roller. The roller is there to have a special distance out away from the pacer.
And then there's the stirrups.
We need this position to give a lot of wind shear to our stayers.
The ability to cut down wind resistance is what launched motor pace racing over 100 years ago. The bicycle sits in the slipstream created behind the motorcycle. This helps the pedal-powered machine to achieve astonishing speeds, up to 150 kilometers an hour.
This front part, this is built extremely far to the front of the bike, right over the wheel.
The bikes are also different from normal racers. They're heavier, made out of aluminum. The chain drive has no idle mechanism. You have to pedal all the time if you want to keep moving. And the front wheel? What is that? The championship is decided by running multiple races. The motorbikes, sporting what look like rubber hazardous material suits, take to the old Nuremberg track first. The bikes aren't far behind. The team communicates with one another with both hand signals and yelling.
One special thing is the helmet for the pacer. We have holes in it. With these holes, I can hear what Florian is talking.
For Helmut and Mario, strategy is always uppermost.
With Helmut, I have a very, very experienced pacemaker. He's doing this now for nearly 40 years. I hope that today Helmut has one or other trick.
Earlier in the first race, Peter and Florian, number 2, set the pace. Passing is only allowed on the right, and there is a strategy there as well. Remember, the whole idea is to create a resistance-free ride for the cyclist. For Peter, in the number 2, he tries to get up close to his opponent so he can create enough rough air to slow the opposing cyclist down.
We try to disturb the slipstream of our competitors. I try to ride beside him. If I get almost at the roller, the wind will blow directly to the other way. That's like you open a door, yeah, and the wind come in.
Reaching speeds of 80 kilometers an hour, the race for the championship is tight. The challengers, Peter and Florian, in the number 2, are battling back attacks from last year's champions, number 1, Helmut and Mario in blue. Pedaling madly, Florian is tiring until approaching the finish line and straining to keep up the pace. Florian and Peter, the number 2 team, just managed to squeeze out a victory. It was close.
We should have attacked one lap before. So in the end, there were a few centimeters missing.
The pacer, Helmut, was in front of me, but the decision is made by the stayer. And Mario was behind Florian, so Florian won. We won.
Coming up, the race car that can also be driven on city streets.
You can drive this car to the track, you can drive it home, you can drive it over speed bumps.
There's street legal, then there's speeding, and the law's got a new pony to catch you when you're heavy on the pedal.
It's virtually impossible for a violator to get away.
You need speed to catch the speeders, and the Ford Interceptor does the trick. This is the fastest production police car being built in North America. The Ford Police Interceptor.
The new Police Interceptor has just redefined the police pursuit vehicle.
They can be at 100 miles an hour before they can even think about it.
Officers Maul and Robinette were 2 of the police advisors enlisted by Ford to make the new Interceptor the top-of-the-line police cruiser. They're with the Greensboro, North Carolina Police Department, one of the first places to roll out these new cars.
The new Police Interceptor is a twin turbocharged engine, 365 horsepower, to the all-wheel drive feature, which we have never had in the past.
The car goes 0 to 100 miles an hour in just over 6 seconds. That's only a little slower than a Ferrari Berlinetta.
Obviously, the vehicle is quicker, and with any type of first responder, whether it's law enforcement, fire, EMS, that's important to us. The vehicle does come with some options that are specific to law enforcement, ballistic panels inside the door that are made of similar material to a bulletproof vest. So if someone does shoot at the vehicle, the ballistic panel will protect the officer.
When cops were asked what they needed in a police car, they said, faster, stronger, tougher. The new Interceptor is exactly that. Now, this vehicle looks like a race car.
So it's the closest thing to a Formula One car you'll get on the road.
There's absolutely nothing on the car that's unnecessary. Everything's there for a reason.
Sounds like a race car.
You can drive this car to the track, you can drive it home, you can drive it in the city, you can drive it over speed bumps.
And it drives like a race car, all the way to the office.
It is the world's only single-seater supercar.
This is the BAC Mono, the first supercar from Briggs Automotive Company. That's the BAC. They call it Mono because it only has one seat, right in the middle, just like a racing car. Neil Briggs is one of the owners of BAC, a self-styled, passionate Looney Tunes.
I think you've got to be crazy to start your own car company, particularly when the world's in a worldwide recession, which it was back in 2007. There really wasn't a perfect car that was out there for people like ourselves. And so what we said was, you know, how would the car look if you started from a blank sheet of paper? If life was about a blue sky approach and doing whatever it needed to do to optimize the performance of the car, how would the car look?
If you want to go towards the purest form of driving, you have to be in the middle, down the center of the car.
Murray Adams is one of the designers of the BAC Mono.
Aesthetically, it's much more like a bike, like a super bike. You have this enclosed front. As you get towards the rear, you get the more exposed mechanicals. And that's really quite unique on a car.
This is Oliver Webb. He might have the coolest job in the world. He's BAC Mono's test driver.
It's the only car that's road legal in the world with one seat.
Oliver's a driver in British Formula 3 races. For him, driving a mono is the closest he can get to an F3 experience without spending the requisite $1 million+ to form a Formula team.
The thrilling thing about driving a Formula Series vehicle is just being at one with the machine. What makes it so similar to a Formula car is how all the centre of gravity is so low. One seat, same gearbox as the F3 car, same weight, same power, no cup holders, no cigarette lighters, no annoying wife.
But what it does have is a couple of slick shift paddles on the steering wheel that can bring out the Jackie Stewart in everyone.
The car's massively quick as well. You look at the kind of apex speeds there. So it's changing gear mid-corner there, which you can't do in any other car other than a car that's got paddle shift.
BAC Mono straddles the road on the track thanks to some ingenious engineering. Mind you, there are still some things you'll need to do to switch from street mode to track beast. The catalytic converter, for instance, it's a pollution device on every car, except race cars. So the idea is once you get to the track, get down on your knees, whip out the wrenches, and change it up.
Very simple V-clamp over this part, and it can be undone and removed in a matter of minutes, so you get a little bit more noise, more power, but obviously your emissions suffer, which is not a problem when you're on a track.
At $180,000 a pop, Neil's company has sold every mono it has made. This is definitely the car to drive if you want to be noticed, whether it's on the track or at the grocery.
People of any age, of any gender, male or female, young or old, all admire mono. That you do really feel like a rock star in the car.
It's the final day of racing at Brands Hatch Raceway in southern England.
Can you get the two new back wheels out?
David Jenkins is battling for first place and is within spitting distance of winning the championship. But he knows the challenges.
I'm going to be on the very last row of the grid. I'm going to have to pass 20 trucks to win the race here. So, you know, it's a tall order.
Jenkins knows he's got some tough competitors out there on the track.
Yeah, Simon Reed, they're a new team to the championship this year. Simon's dad raced against my dad in the 80s. They bought an old truck, him and his brother restored it, tuned it, came racing with it, and they're there and they're knocking on the door for championship podium positions all the time. For a novice team, they are absolutely credible what they've done this year.
Then there's Jim Bennett.
Very much of the grassroots, you know, comes on his own with one or two lads, and he's here every weekend. So without guys like Jim, we wouldn't have a championship.
As the teams prepare to duke out the last couple of races, the organizers have let it be known, no more contact.
There's been too many crashes, yeah. Really, unfortunately, you know, we are a non-contact sport. Unfortunately, when you're getting beasts like this at 5.5 tons plus, on the slide, you can't help contacting sometimes.
And sure enough, as soon as the race starts up, the bumping and grinding resumes. But Jim's got an even bigger problem. He's begun to notice some awkward noises coming from his transmission.
We just haven't got the time in between the races today to sort something out.
He thinks it might have happened yesterday, but he didn't notice. And today, one gear after another is beginning to quit working.
Not good, because the third gear's gone completely now, so I'm having to rely on splitting the top gear. So I've only got half a gear instead of the whole gear.
But while Jim is trying to figure out how to coax his truck around the track for one final race, newcomer Simon Reed is looking to take advantage. Every time another truck demolishes itself out of the race, Simon moves up in the standings.
Motors all over the place. It certainly wakes you up a bit anyway when that happens in front of you. Good racer.
In the second race of the day, David Jenkins is forced off the track, while everyone leaves him behind.
We had a slight technical problem on the grid. The truck lost all its air pressure, which controls the braking system, the cooling system. And then obviously I charge, through to catch the pack up, and I just caught them.
Jenkins is hoping he can somehow rack up enough points to beat the guy who's in first position. But no matter what happens, his dad has some sage advice.
Keep your head screwed on. What's that right foot? And what's the mirrors? It's as simple as that.
Coming up on Mega Speed, with tensions high, David Jenkins needs to run clean and fast. Jim Bennett is wondering if he can finish at all. And Simon Reed can almost see a podium finish for the first time in his life. The competitors take their positions for the final race of the season. It's the final race of the year at Brands Hatch. Simon Reed, in the red truck, is having one great race after another. As he moves steadily up in the standings, he knows who he has to beat to win.
We're out to beat Jim. All year round we've had bits and problems with the truck, and finally we're getting it together. We're gaining points on him quite rapidly, and it's probably going to be down to the last race.
And this year, Jim is ripe for the picking. The cagey old truck warrior is having terrible troubles with his truck. He's ill-equipped to deal with a serious transmission issue.
If something breaks, I have to fix it myself, whereas the other teams don't have mechanics who will fix it for it.
And so, to the final race. And it's like everyone is choosing to just ignore the ruling to stop crashing into each other. Simon Reed manages to avoid any major clashes until Jim gives him a hard push that sends them both off into the grass. In spite of his truck's problems, Jim manages to get away first. Simon catches him and forces them both off to the side. Again, experience pays off, and Jim escapes to live another lap. Until Simon puts the pedal to the metal and manages to pass his old mentor. David Jenkins, one of the top drivers on the circuit, is pushing his truck hard to take first place. Dragging bits and pieces of his rig behind him, David Jenkins refuses to give an inch. Corner after corner, he just manages to keep ahead of the front runner. And when the checkered flag is waved, David Jenkins comes in number one. And Simon Reed finally gets his first podium win, third place overall.
How does that feel?
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant, that is, wait to tell you.
And Jim, when it's all done, it looks like any disappointment won't last beyond a pint or two.
That's what I accused me of.
For Tanner and Deegan, there's a camaraderie that comes with the need for speed. Eric DeBoule recognizes how fast it all comes to an end. And TJ knows how hard it is to achieve excellence when you're pushing the envelope. And Neil and Oliver know the feeling you get when everything turns out nearly perfect.
Felt really, really good.